In today's video, we present a remarkable engine battle between two of the most powerful chess programs in the world, Stockfish and Leela Chess Zero. Set within the depths of the Ruy Lopez Breyer-Zaitsev Hybrid, this game begins with a slow and intricate positional maneuvering phase, where both sides vie for control in a tightly closed structure. The tension builds steadily as both engines probe, reposition, and wait for the slightest imbalance to appear. What follows is a textbook demonstration of how modern engines convert long-term positional pressure into tactical violence. After a quiet buildup, the entire character of the game shifts with a brilliant bishop tactical exange on h6, a move that tears open the kingside and marks the irreversible collapse of Black's position. This game is more than just a victory. It's a perfect model of how to accumulate advantages, provoke weaknesses, and then strike with surgical precision when the moment is right. Let's explore it together.
e4.
White opens with the king's pawn, taking immediate control of the center, a classical and flexible choice.
e5.
Black responds symmetrically, contesting the center and allowing for a broad range of open games, including the Ruy Lopez.
Knight f3.
Stockfish develops the king's knight, attacking the e5 pawn and preparing kingside castling, prioritizing rapid development.
Knight c6.
Leela defends the e5 pawn and supports potential queenside development, keeping pace with White's classical setup.
Bishop b5.
The Ruy Lopez begins. White pressures the c6 knight to indirectly undermine the e5 pawn, aiming for long-term central dominance.
a6.
Leela challenges the bishop early, gaining queenside space and signaling the start of a mainline variation.
Bishop a4.
White retreats, preserving the bishop for future influence on the diagonal, a common Ruy Lopez idea.
Knight f6.
Black develops actively and attacks the e4 pawn, increasing central tension and preparing to castle.
Short castling.
White castles kingside, completing development and inviting Black to resolve the tension in the center.
Bishop e7.
Leela calmly develops the dark square bishop, preparing to castle and keeping flexibility in pawn structure.
Rook e1.
Stockfish places the rook behind the e4 pawn, reinforcing it and setting up for potential central breaks like d4.
b5.
Black expands on the queenside and forces the bishop back, gaining space and preparing bishop b7 or knight f5.
Bishop b3.
White retreats the bishop to safety while maintaining pressure and flexibility for later kingside operations.
d6.
Leela solidifies the center and completes the core of the classical Ruy Lopez pawn triangle, supporting both e5 and c5 ideas.
c3.
White strengthens the d4 square and supports central expansion. This is a typical preparatory move before d4.
Short castling.
Black castles into safety, bringing the king off the central file and completing opening development.
h3.
White prevents any future bishop g4 pins and secures the g4 square, a subtle but essential prophylactic move.
Knight b8.
Leela plays the Breyer maneuver, a deep Ruy Lopez idea, aiming to reposition the knight to d7.
d4.
White seizes central space, taking advantage of the knight retreat and establishing strong central presence.
Knight bd7.
Black completes the maneuver, repositioning the knight to reinforce e5 and prepare potential queenside plans.
Knight bd2.
White develops the queenside knight to d2, reinforcing the e4 pawn. This also keeps flexibility for future repositioning.
Bishop b7.
Black develops the bishop to an active diagonal, eyeing the center and long-term pressure against e4.
Bishop c2.
White retreats the bishop to c2, a subtle maneuver. This clears the d file for the queen or rooks and prepares for future kingside action, such as queen e2.
Rook e8.
Leela centralizes the rook, supporting e5 and giving options for lateral rook movement. It also prepares for potential central tension after bishop f8.
Knight f1.
Stockfish begins a classic Ruy Lopez maneuver. The knight is headed for g3, where it will support a future f4 push and strengthen kingside control.
Bishop f8.
Black mirrors the repositioning idea. The bishop steps back to prepare g6 and possibly reroute the knight to g6 as well, typical of the Zaitsev or Breyer setups.
Knight g3.
White completes the knight journey. From g3, the knight eyes f5 and h5, supports a kingside initiative, and boosts White's attacking potential.
g6.
Black prevents any immediate knight f5, jumps and secures the light squares. This also paves the way for the bishop to move to g7, reinforcing the kingside.
Bishop g5.
White pins the f6 knight, increasing tension on the kingside. This move can provoke weakening responses like h6 or e take d4, and sets the tone for attacking play.
h6.
Leela challenges the bishop immediately. While forcing White to make a decision, this move creates long-term weaknesses on the dark squares, especially g6 and f6.
Bishop e3.
Stockfish retreats the bishop, but this is slightly inaccurate. The pin is released early, giving Black breathing room, though the idea may be to reposition the bishop via f1.
Bishop g7.
Leela develops the bishop to g7, completing fianchetto. However, this may be premature. Black still needs to finalize piece coordination, and central tension is unresolved.
d5.
White locks down the center. This is a key positional moment. Stockfish grabs space and restricts Black's flexibility, particularly limiting the scope of the g7 bishop.
c6.
Black challenges the center immediately, but the move is slightly mistimed. Without sufficient preparation, the resulting exchanges will open lines that favor White.
d takes c6.
Stockfish captures confidently, opening the position while enjoying superior coordination. White welcomes central tension with better piece mobility.
Bishop takes c6.
Black recaptures and centralizes the bishop. It now targets e4 and c2, but is also exposed to future tactics due to the loosened pawn structure.
Queen takes d6.
White seizes the moment. The queen enters the center with tempo, attacking multiple squares and creating immediate pressure along the 6th rank.
Rook c8.
Black brings the rook into play, eyeing the open c-file. However, this is largely a reaction. White controls the initiative and has better harmony among the pieces.
Rook a d1.
Stockfish calmly reinforces the center and the d6 square. With both rooks centralized, White has complete control of the open files and is ready for tactical action.
Bishop f8.
With this move, Leela misses a chance to contest the central files. Stockfish, recognizing this loss of tempo and coordination, will seize the initiative and begin a tactical buildup that Black will not recover from.
Queen d2.
White retreats the queen from d6 to reposition, a quiet move with venom. Stockfish prepares to swing the queen toward h6 and coordinate with the rooks for a kingside assault.
Queen c7.
A critical mistake. Leela brings the queen to c7, but it inadvertently walks into a tactical storm. This subtle inaccuracy removes a key defender from the kingside just before the explosion.
Bishop takes h6.
At first glance, This move appears to be a bold bishop sacrifice, a classic Greek gift aimed at ripping open the kingside. But a deeper look reveals that this is not a speculative or self-sacrificial idea. It is a calculated and concrete tactical exchange.
Bishop takes h6.
Leela accepts the exchange, but this only accelerates the attack. The h6 pawn are now gone, and black's king is fatally exposed.
Queen takes h6.
White recaptures, centralizing the queen on the h-file. Mate threats are already looming, and the queen dominates the dark squares.
Knight c5.
Black tries to bring in reinforcements. The knight eyes e4 or d3, but it's too slow. The initiative is completely in white's hands, and Stockfish won't allow any defensive regrouping.
Knight g5.
The knight leaps to g5 with menace. Every piece is laser-focused on the kingside.
Queen e7.
Leela blocks the e-file, hoping to slow the pressure. But it's just a bandage on a fatal wound. Stockfish will build up calmly and strike at full force.
Rook e3.
The rook lift begins. This rook will swing to g3 or h3, joining the queen in the attack. Stockfish shows textbook execution, adding attackers before striking.
Knight h5.
A terrible mistake under pressure. Leela attempts to trade attackers, but this only opens more lines. Black's structure collapses instantly.
Knight takes h5.
White captures calmly, clearing the way for the rook to invade. The dark squares are fatally weak f6, h6, and g7 can no longer be defended.
G takes h5.
Black recaptures, but in doing so opens the g-file. What was meant to reduce pressure now invites a crushing blow.
Rook g3.
The rook swings into action. White's attack is now fully coordinated: queen on h6, rook on g3, knight ready to jump, all while black is stuck in defense.
f6.
Leela attempts to block the g5 square and limit access, but the move is too little too late. The king's side is wide open.
Knight e6 check.
With this move, Stockfish threatens mate, and it's a forced mate in for moves with best play.
King f7. Knight takes c5. Queen takes c5. Rook g7 check. King f8. Queen h8 checkmate.
A flawless finish. The queen lands on h8, delivering mate with the support of the rook. The black king, surrounded by its own pieces, is helpless.